Whoever makes excuses cannot be helped spiritually. I see today that everyone, young and old, tends to justify everything with a rather satanic rationalization. Everything is interpreted for them by the devil, and so they find themselves outside of reality. Self-justification is a satanic interpretation of reality. And how is it, Geranda, that some people can counter every word spoken to them? Oh, it is a terrible thing to attempt a conversation with a person who is accustomed to making excuses. It is as if you are talking to the possessed. Those who justify themselves with excuses, may God forgive me, have the devil as their guide. They are tormented people. They have no peace in their heart. They have refined this self-justification into a science. In other words, just as a thief does not sleep all night scheming how to carry out yet another robbery, these people are constantly thinking of how they will justify their faults and shortcomings. Or as some people will think of ways to do a good deed or to be humbled. They, on the contrary, will try to figure out how to excuse the inexcusable. They become lawyers. You can't get anywhere with them. It is as if you are speaking with the devil himself. Oh, what I went through with one such person. I had been telling him for a long time, what you are doing is out of line. You need to pay attention to this. You are not doing this right. You should really do it this way or that way. But he had a retort for everything, always had an excuse, and in the end he said, "You didn't tell me what to do. My good man, what have we been saying all this time? We are pointing out your faults, that you are not in the right, and yet you are constantly making excuses. For 3 hours now, you have worn me out. How can you say that I didn't tell you what to do?" You list a bunch of examples to help him understand that seeing things in such a way is an indication of satanic egotism, that he is indeed accepting demonic influences, and if he does not change, he will be lost. And in the end he tells you, "You didn't tell me what to do." Isn't this enough to drive you crazy? Now if you don't care, you can just shrug and say, "Never mind." But if you care, you feel like exploding. I do consider blessed those who can be indifferent. But surely, Geranda, you wouldn't ever want to be indifferent. At least the indifferent person does not suffer such severe anguish in vain. To suffer for one who is in distress, now this has meaning and a purpose. But to be literally worn out instructing the other person in every detail, and to be told in the end, "You didn't tell me what to do," and him excusing the inexcusable. That's how a person turns into a demon. It's terrible. If he only thought of the effort, never mind the pain, one expended to help him, he would have changed a little. He sees your sympathetic efforts, your concern to help him, you're agonizing over his situation, and it doesn't touch him. He's not moved. When someone has done wrong and makes excuses and you point that out to him, but he continues to argue that it is not an excuse, is it possible for him to be corrected? How can he be corrected? He understands that it is a fault because he is tormented by it, but out of egotism, he does not want to admit it. It is a terrible thing. Yes, but he also says, "You are not helping me. I want you to help me. You don't call me for a talk. You despise me." Well, this too comes from egotism. It is as if he is saying, "It's not my fault, it's your fault that I'm not doing well." That is where it ends up. Leave him alone. One need not to be involved with him anymore, for he cannot be helped. Nor does the spiritual father or the abbot or the abbess bear any responsibility for such a soul. This is satanic egoism. It is not human. Human egotism is when someone will not humble himself to say, "Father, bless me, I am at fault." But at least he will not argue back to justify himself. He who justifies himself when in the wrong transforms his heart into a demonic refuge. If he does not crush this satanic ego, he will go from one fault to another and be constantly afflicted by this egotism without benefit. And if someone does not know how harmful such justification is, he at least has some extenuating circumstances. But if he knows or is told by others, then he has no extenuating circumstances. Much care is needed when you try to help someone who is used to making excuses for himself, because sometimes this is what happens. Since he is making excuses for himself, it means he is very egotistic. So when you point out his faults, he will only tell more lies and make more excuses in order to prove one thing or another, so that he won't be offended. Thus, when you show him what he is doing, even though you want to help him, you cause him to be an even greater egotist and an even greater liar. The moment you notice that he is going on with his excuses, you should stop trying to prove anything else to him. Just pray that God may enlighten him.